Look at this, it's so cool. If I slide these little buttons at the top here, they pop up the magnetic triggers. Button goes up, button goes down.
Bed goes up, bed goes down.
This is the new Black Shark 5 Pro, and its combination of super duper high-end specs, but also a very reasonable price, I think makes this stand out and definitely worth considering. So Black Shark have launched two new phones, the Black Shark 5 and the 5 Pro, which is the one I have here and is their new flagship. And actually, it's a decent upgrade even over the 4S Pro that came out back in October, so not even that long ago, with a new processor, a better camera, faster charging, a refreshed design, and also all new accessories. Speaking of which, Black Shark also sent over their magnetic cooling fan to go with the phone, and also a pair of their new active noise cancelling JoyBuds Pro earphones, which are actually surprisingly good. They're Snapdragon Sound certified, they have a special low latency game mode, and you get about 30 hours of combined battery life. Now, a big thank you to Black Shark for sending this over for me to have a bit of a play with. I've been testing it for a couple of weeks now, and also for offering to sponsor this video, but as always, all opinions are my own. It's tricky. What makes a good gaming phone? I was going to say there's like 3 core key features that you have to have, but really it's like 5 or 6. It's got to have a comfortable design that you can use for a long period, and also with shoulder triggers, those are pretty fundamental these days. Also, I do think you need a fan or some incredible built-in cooling to prevent throttling. Obviously, all the best specs possible for the highest frame rates, as well as a high refresh and also a high touch response screen so the inputs feel immediate. And you also need solid battery life and fast charging so you can enjoy gaming sessions without worrying. And I can tell you this checks pretty much all those boxes. I only have a couple of minor gripes, so let's get those out of the way first. And I think the big one maybe is the battery life, because while it is fine, and we have actually a decent size 4650 mAh cell in here, which is actually a bit bigger than the previous 4S and 4, which came with a 4500, but not best in class. Some of the competition do have bigger batteries and will last longer. However, the upside of this new battery is it's a new dual cell design, which means, thanks to this guy as well, we have much faster charging, 120 watt charging. In fact, you can fully charge the Black Shark 5 Pro from 0 to 100 in just 15 minutes, which right now makes this the fastest charging gaming phone you can buy. So charging has had a big upgrade, but in terms of actual battery life, well, half an hour of Genshin Impact at max settings used 17%, so we're looking at around 3 hours of battery life for demanding games. Of course, regular non-gaming use is going to be a completely different story. This will easily get you through a full day, and really it does depend on what games you play. If you've got Roblox or Candy Crush or Angry Birds or something running, then it's going to last a lot longer than Genshin or Apex. Now, specs-wise, this boasts a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, as well as 8, 12, or 16 gigs of RAM. I've got the 12GB version here, along with either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. Although no 512 option here like we used to have, and also no microSD card support. But both models do use faster enhanced UFS 3.1 storage. Now, sadly, we don't have Qualcomm's just announced Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Their naming conventions are just awful. But that only has just been announced, and actually right now there are no phones that support it, and those that do come out are likely to be a lot more expensive as well. And the entry-level model, which I reckon is all you need, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 storage, costs just £639, which makes it one of, if not the cheapest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 gaming phones that you can buy right now. Now, for any gaming phone, the screen is kind of just as important as the specs and the performance, and with this we're getting a 6.67-inch, 144Hz, 720Hz touch sample OLED display. And it is gorgeous and, as you'd expect, incredibly responsive. It's not an LTPO panel, so it doesn't actually dynamically adjust the refresh, although you can choose the refresh you want in the display settings. So just how fast is this? Well, let's start with a couple of benchmarks. Now, for some context, let's bring in the Galaxy S22 Ultra, which has the same chip as this, and already you can see a pretty big difference between the highest and lowest 3D Mark score and that stability, which is actually remarkably impressive given that wasn't using any kind of active fan cooling. That is all down to the new anti-gravity vapor chamber cooler that you've got inside here, that's what they call it. And to be fair, while I did notice the phone still gets quite warm, especially around the edges, playing some very demanding games for longer sessions, it did, at least on the inside, keep things nice and cool and prevent it from throttling. Now, as I mentioned, Black Shark also sent out this magnetic cooler fan accessory thing. The only trouble is that this is primarily designed for iPhones with MagSafe. There are adhesive attachments, so it can stick on the back of the Black Shark or any other phone, but even with that, there actually wasn't enough power coming from the USB-C port when I had it plugged in to actually make it work. The good news though is that there is a whole arsenal of Black Shark accessories that you can buy. Controllers, active cooling fans, and while I don't have them here to test, if you want to regularly game in the ludicrous performance mode, then it does recommend you use a fan with it. So I'll withhold judgment on fan performance until I can get one that properly works with this. Now, any good gaming phone has shoulder triggers, but as far as I know, Black Shark are the only brand using magnetic pop-up triggers. You simply toggle the switch beside the triggers to make them pop up, and Black Shark say they've tested them over 1,000,000 times for durability. So, while you're gaming, you can either swipe in or long press both triggers to open up the new SharkSpace 4.0 Game Center. Then tap on Master Control, and you can map the A and B triggers to any on-screen virtual buttons you like, for say aiming down a scope, for jumping, reloading, handbrake turns, whatever you like. If you're wondering, can these slider buttons be used for anything else? Well, the answer is yes. If you jump into the settings menu, you can actually customize what those slider buttons can do after they've popped up or retracted the shoulder triggers. But wait, there is more, because we also have a dual zone pressure sensitive screen, and so you can get some seriously precise inputs with up to 7 levels of sensitivity. Now, there is no doubt this is quite a big phone. As I say, 6.67-inch screen, it's also 9.5mm thick, and it weighs 220 grams. We also get some incredible sounding stereo speakers. Sadly, we don't get a headphone jack, but the Black Shark 5 Pro is in fact the #1 phone on the DxOMark audio rankings, which is very cool, although to be fair, I still mostly use earphones when I'm gaming. Also, unlike most gaming phones, the cameras on this aren't half bad actually. We've had a pretty big upgrade, particularly on the back. We have a new 108-megapixel main camera lens. There's also a 13-megapixel ultra-wide and a 5-megapixel macro, plus a 16-megapixel selfie camera up front. And while I haven't spent a great deal of time with the camera so far, I've mainly been playing games on this, in good light, the Black Shark 5 Pro can take some really nice shots. Now, in terms of the software, this runs Black Shark's own Joy UI 13 software on top of Android 12. Although, if I bring up the recently used apps menu here, there's only one other software like this that goes vertical, and that is, of course, Xiaomi's MIUI. This is very heavily based on MIUI 12. And that is absolutely fine, no complaints from me. There is surprisingly little bloatware, it's nice and fast, there's a good amount of customization, but it really is that SharkSpace 4.0 game command center, whatever you want to call it, that is the real software highlight. Not just for mapping different triggers, but you can also program macros in games, so if there's any repetitive actions in games you'd rather automate. Plus there's motion sensing, which uses the phone's gyroscope to track its movement, so you can actually assign up to 7 different gesture inputs, which is pretty nifty. So that is just a quick look at the new Black Shark 5 Pro. Also, have a look out for the Black Shark 5, which uses the Snapdragon 870, which is still a very capable chip and is cheaper than this, of course. But if you're after a good flagship phone that does not cost a fortune, which a lot of them do, and gives you top-notch performance, some actually very impressive internal cooling thanks to that vapor chamber, but on the whole, it is a really good all-rounder. And there are just so many input methods with this that you can really customize how you play the games that you play. But what do you reckon? Would you be tempted by the Black Shark 5 Pro? And also, if you've got any questions or anything you'd like me to test, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.